Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode on the Connected Wellness Podcast. I am Rachel Ann. I'm here with the wonderful Mary Ann, and we are so passionate about wellness.
In this podcast, we look at the ways that our spiritual, emotional, and physical health is all connected and how we can take better care of our whole selves holistically so we could live our best lives. We're really excited that you're here with us on the journey. We're excited here for episode 13, so welcome back. Um,
Welcome.
we've established we're just always excited, and
Yeah.
that's just the way it is. So here in episode 13, we're going to be talking about something that we've touched on before, but I think we need to dive into it a little bit deeper, and that's journaling. So I think it's going to be an interesting topic. I'm excited to learn and maybe try some new things. But before we do that, how about some wellness wins, Rachel Ann?
Yeah, let's do it, girl. So for this week's wellness win, if you're somebody who signed up to my email newsletter list, you already know this, but my wellness win for this week is that while I was on vacation with my husband, I tried like a bunch of new things. So if you know me, you know that I like what I like and I stick to it and I enjoy it and I have a great time with it. And branching out and trying new things sometimes is really fun, but I'm very picky and choosy with the things that I like try new things with.
Mm-hmm.
And so over the vacation, I was trying new foods, new beverages. I tried a new hairstyle, I tried a new outfit, and it was really fun. There were some moments that were a little bit overwhelming and some moments where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like freaking out in my head. And so I had to just like talk myself through it, which I was really proud about. But yeah, it was really cool to try new things and feel excited about it and enjoy it and also be
Mm-hmm.
okay if some of those new things didn't work out. I was able to kind of eliminate that pressure to be like, I have to enjoy this new thing and it has to be worth this new thing or this money or this like whatever that I'm putting towards it. I was like, no, girl, you want to try this
Yeah,
new thing. Like, go try this new thing. So, I know that was really exciting. And I'm going to take some of that with me
that's
into future
great.
things that I
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
So do you have like a favorite new food, drink, outfit, hairstyle that you tried?
That's a good point. Do I have a favorite new thing? I did try a new hairstyle. It was two low buns and like a half part in the middle. And I really, really liked it. And it's probably something I'm going to do again. I do need to have some hair products and I do need to have like a nice 20 minutes of preparation. So I'm going to keep that in mind. Sorry, just burped. But that might be something that I'm
So you
going
have
to
to
do again that I
plan
was like,
ahead.
I really liked. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun. This is total side note, but I would like love to try a middle part, but I've been parting my hair on the
Mm.
side for like, 1,000 years now. So maybe I should take this cue from you and just give it a try. Like what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
I don't like it. I redo it, right? But yeah, I like
Yeah.
it. That's a good one. Coming out of your comfort
Yeah.
zone, experiencing new things, and vacation is a great place to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
So it was a good time.
that's awesome. Okay, you want to hear mine?
Yes, absolutely.
My wellness win um is, I don't know if this is going to sound like a cop out, because my wellness win is basically having many, many, many wellness wins. So basically I realized, why do I have to wait? Why do I have to wait until, we talk about this when we record every other week to think about, my wellness wins? So there are days where I might be feeling like I'm not doing great, or I haven't made the progress that I want to make, or, for whatever reason, I just feel this ubiquitous I'm not enough. We often have this problem. So I
Mm.
realized on some of those days, I can always find at least one win, right? At least
Mm.
one thing that I've done well or that I'm proud of or something like that. Like, recently for some workouts, it's been that I can do like 2 more reps of this particular, workout, or
Wow.
um, any little things like that, right? So even if the whole day doesn't feel like a win, there's always wins in the day. So I've started
Mm.
just thinking about that on a daily basis. What are my wins? And it really, really is helping if I feel discouraged. You could have little wellness wins for work. I did this particularly
Mm.
well. This interaction went well in a relationship. So I feel like there's no shortage of things that you can find, even if a day feels
Yeah.
hard. So that's what I started
Yeah.
doing.
I love that. Oh my God, girl, that is huge because I feel like you're able to remind yourself to celebrate things. It doesn't have to be this big, humongous thing. We'll celebrate that too, but the small,
Hmm.
everyday things too, like that's worthy of celebration. I love that. I don't think it's a cop out. I think it's a great wellness win.
Absolutely. It's like my wellness win is that I think about wellness wins. So it felt like a little bit of a cheat, but I think it's
Yeah,
legit. I'm
it is
sticking with
legit.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, girl, stick with it. I love that so
Okay.
much.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. Always, always so supportive. All right. So, why are we talking about journaling today?
Mhm.
Why is this an important topic? What do you think?
Yeah. Um, it's an important topic because journaling is really, really helpful and it's really, really hard. And so I think that's why it's great to talk about, to kind of shed light on why it's difficult, how we can make it less difficult, why is it important, right? Why do we even prioritize this? What are the benefits that we receive about it and
Hmm.
from doing it? And so, yeah, this is something I talk a lot about, yeah, like in my job as like a coach, but also just in life, like with my friends. One of my friends that I'm
Hmm.
thinking about right now specifically, she's always like, yo, I hate journaling. And whenever I wait like a month to journal, I have like 5 pages worth of writing that I do because I reached my limit and I
Hmm.
just needed to get it all out. So it always makes me chuckle because some people, that's how they do it. It's only like once a month or only in a certain
Yeah.
season. Other people, they're like, yo, it's a day, like an everyday thing. And so yeah, I'm excited to talk about it because it's important and really, really helpful. Really, really helpful.
Yeah, I think why do we like kind of shy away from it, some of us, because it feels
Mm.
like another thing I have to do, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
last thing I want is something else on my to-do list. So that's why I think it can be like a turn off or something, but I know you're going to talk about, and we'll talk about things like we don't have to be so rigid about it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like we can find ways to make it work for us. And
Mm-hmm.
really, the whole goal is it's supposed to be helpful. It's not some sort of assignment, like most of us are out of school. We're done with having to do homework, right? But,
Yeah.
and it's even worse if you're in school, you're like, I have enough assignments to do. I'm not trying to do another assignment. But
Yeah.
you know what? Before we get into it, do you want to share like what kind of regular journaling practice you do?
Absolutely. So there's different types of journaling, which we'll probably talk about in a second. But for me personally, I tend to be somebody who journals ideally every day, but usually a few times a week. And I'm somebody who in my journal, I actually start each journal entry being like, hey, God. And it's like a prayer time experience for me. And I tend to write things out as
Hmm.
if I was like speaking to God. And then sometimes it goes in a direction of like, oh, I'm just like reading my Bible now. Sometimes it goes into like, oh, now I'm just worshiping. Sometimes it's like, hey, God, I have 5 pages of things that I'm writing and I'm talking about with you. And you're like giving me really good ideas or revelations. You're depositing something in me. And I want to write it down so I can really
Hmm.
remember and reflect and meditate on it more. Um, so I tend to do a combination of like prayer journaling, gratitude journaling, and usually some like reflective stuff as well. But I know that there's other types. I don't know. Are there certain journaling types that you do?
So mine is actually kind of similar to yours,
Hmm.
but it is scripture based. So like a few years ago, I discovered something called scripture writing, where there'll be like a plan, every day of the month, like a suggested, few verses out of scripture, and usually every month has a theme. So like in November, the theme might be thankfulness. In February, it might be love or something like that, and then you write out, like physically write out those verses, and the
Mm,
act of doing that, like instead of just reading it really quickly, like you really internalize
mm,
those verses, and you can like focus more on a few of the words and whatever stands out to you. So that's how I started. But then I always was like, well, that's not enough. I feel like I want a
Mm.
prayer right after reading those verses and reflecting on those verses. And I basically have a page a day. So, like, the top paragraph is the verse itself. And then I
Mm.
fill the rest of the page with a prayer. And exactly like you, it's like, Dear Lord,
Oh,
and it's a prayer. The rest of the page. And then I've
yeah.
also done this, I kind of fell away from, but like a daily, this is the what I'm thankful for today. So like you said, a
Mm.
gratitude journaling. So
Mhm.
I'd like to get into something more than just the prayer journaling, maybe more from a mental health, like dealing with my emotions, even though
Mhm.
that always comes out in the prayer. Of course, it's inevitable. God's going to hear about how I'm feeling. There's no way around it. But yeah, so I,
Yeah.
I want to hear about different kinds, other than the prayer journaling. But I love that
Mhm.
we basically do the same thing,
Yeah,
without
I
having
love
talked about it
that.
before. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I think you touch on different types of journaling, right? There's gratitude journaling, there's scripture writing, which you mentioned. There's also journaling where it's kind of like a brain dump, where you're just getting everything out. It doesn't
Hmm.
matter if it makes sense or not. It doesn't. There's no like.
Hmm.
There's no theme or topic. It's like whatever is in my brain, I'm just writing it out. There's also the audio note journaling. This is really helpful for like somebody who's like on the run and they're like, yo, I really wish that I could journal right now. I'm feeling really congested in my brain with a lot of thoughts and things that I want to talk about and get off my chest. But for some reason, I can't
Hmm.
like get to a journal. So I'm just going to do an audio note journal where I just make an audio note and I'm verbalizing things. And there's also some
Yeah.
journaling that's seasonal. So there's grief journaling if you're somebody who's in a season of grief. And there's like certain journal prompts and journals that you can purchase that help you process the grief, kind of similar to the gratitude
Hmm.
journal where the theme is gratitude. The one with grief, the theme is grieving. So helping you to process that. And there's a bunch of other ones. There's a mood
Yeah.
tracking journal that helps you track your moods. And there's like little, the one that I actually created one. The one that I created has like daily trackers and you circle which smiley face you are. Bless you.
Excuse me. Yeah. Thanks.
You circle which smiley face you are. There's some prompts to help you process the day about your behaviors and your thoughts and patterns and stuff like that. So, whatever type of journaling you're looking for, there probably is a
Hmm.
type of journal out there for you.
Yeah. I go back and forth between wanting something super guided like that, but then
Hmm.
also I just like love the freedom of a blank piece of paper,
Hmm.
like just a blank page that I could fill any way. But I wanted to talk about that brain dump because that is something that I've
Mm.
tried before. And I actually really, really liked it because if you're someone who, like me, and I think we've talked about this before, you feel like there's like 100 tabs open in your brain, at
Mm.
most of the time, or there's just all this stuff. The brain dump is so nice. Like you just,
Hmm.
like you said, it doesn't have to make sense. Like, one thought leads into another that have zero connection, and it doesn't matter. You just write it down, and I feel like when you get it out, it's almost like you're decluttering your mind,
Yep.
right? Like you have
Yep.
like, imagine your mind is a room and there's just like stuff everywhere, right? Like there's books everywhere, clothes, garbage, there's just
Mm.
stuff everywhere. And then when you write all of this down, it's like you're like, okay, I'm putting this away, I'm putting that away, I'm dusting over here, I'm cleaning the window right here. Like it just
Yeah.
cleans and clears and like makes your mind a more pleasant place to be, where you can
Yeah.
actually like think clearly. That's kind of how I see the brain dump, and I did really enjoy that. It was, for me, it was a first
Hmm.
thing in the morning thing, because I would wake up and
Yeah.
there's just like a bunch of crap, and then you could like focus on your day because you've got all that out there.
Yeah, I love that. The brain dump is really helpful, like you mentioned in the morning, also in moments when you're really stressed and before you go to bed. So if you're somebody that has difficulty
Hmm.
sleeping, like I actually have this in my home. I have like a small little notebook with a pen, and if I'm having a hard time sleeping, it's been like 10-15 minutes, and it's because I have thoughts that I'm wrestling with in my mind. I literally take out the notebook, and I just write it down. I don't even think about it. I don't look for like nice handwriting. I'm not trying to analyze it. Literally,
Mhm.
the purpose is to get the information from here out. Out onto something else so it's not swimming around in my
Yeah.
brain. And I think that's something that's helpful to keep in mind with journaling is what is the purpose? If the purpose is to get stuff out, then doing the brain dump is helpful. If the purpose is to have some type of
Yeah.
like guided reflection, then having some journals with some prompts or reflection questions can be helpful. But sometimes, like you mentioned, you don't need any prompt. You're like, yo, I just have a free flowing, I just want to have like a free flowing conversation with God or a free flowing reflection of my day. I don't need any prompts or anything to get me
Mhm.
started. Then you just, you go free flow. You do something like that. So I think that's one thing to keep in mind. What is the purpose of journaling? And that can help you feel less frustrated because then you'll do the type of journaling that is helpful to accomplish what it is that you need to accomplish. But the brain dump one is super helpful. When you're feeling stressed out, just get it all out and
Yeah.
don't look at it again. Right? We don't need to rehash why we're stressed out, nothing. We don't need to make sure that makes sense. No, it's not going to make sense, and that's fine. But the goal is just to
Yeah.
like get it out, put it away, and be done with it.
Yeah, I think you touched on something there. Like, if for this to be helpful, we need to be non-judgmental. Like, we need to not judge
Yeah.
ourselves or our
Yeah.
thoughts, right? Like, you just get them out as they are. Again, nobody is going to read it. You don't even have to
Mm-hmm.
read it again. So, just that idea of allowing yourself to be completely unfiltered, like,
Yeah.
where else in our lives can we be completely unfiltered? Most of the
Mm.
time, even with our closest relationships, like we're feeling like we have to sometimes be guarded in what we say.
Yeah.
So that's, like, I think the big benefit, something that you maybe
Mm-hmm.
could never have admitted to yourself or someone else. You'll say you're writing it down, I am feeling
Yeah.
this way, and then you could go and process those emotions. If you can't name them, right, you're not going to be able to process them. You're not going to be able to move through
Mm-hmm.
them. And I think that's almost like journaling becomes a small substitute for therapy sometimes, right? Because we are able
Mm.
to get things out and see patterns and process these emotions that we wouldn't have if we had never gotten them out, whether verbally or, on paper or on a screen, right? Your journal can be digital, of course. If you
Mm.
hate writing by hand, you could type it out. So there's no rules, but I think, yeah, that's a huge benefit, is this idea that you can sort through your emotions, that maybe you didn't realize you even had until you started
Yeah.
the process.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really good
Yeah.
to keep in mind the non-judgmental piece. A few emails ago for my email newsletter list, I talked about I talked about how a lot of my job is normalizing the uncomfortable thoughts that people have. Right? People come to me and
Mm.
they're like, Rachel, I'm so embarrassed to tell you this. Or I wish this wasn't the case, but it's true. And here we are, girl. Like, help me. And I'm usually like, first of all, I'm so sorry about that experience or some type of like validation and support. And then I also usually end up saying something like, you're not the only one who is experiencing this. You're not the only one who's
Mm-hmm.
frustrated at
Mm-hmm.
their family or jealous of their friend or having questions about why the world is the way that it is. Lots of people ask these questions and wonder, but we don't know that we're allowed to do
Mm-hmm.
that. And journaling is a safe space to begin the process of accepting difficult realities. And so I love that. A
Mm.
lot of the times, if you're working with some type of like mental health professional, they will ask you to journal because, yes, it's like a really good way. It's a really good way to make use of the time between sessions because stuff is going to come up and you can bring that to your session and be like, yo, like, look what I discovered. Like, when I journaled after I
Mm-hmm.
had an argument with my boss, and like all of this stuff came out. Like, it turns out it's not just about this, it turns out it's about like this. So it really lets your brain just kind of like relax and get everything out there. And the more non judgmental you are, the more likely you'll be able to get everything out that you need to get out, and then you can do something about it. Like, that's the thing, is like, okay, now we know
Yeah.
like what's happening, so we can do something about it that's likely to be really helpful because we know what's going on. So I think that's a really important piece, that non-judgmental piece.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, we said, I'm just going to recap some of the
Yep.
benefits of journaling. So clear your mind a little bit. So like a brain dump,
Mhm.
right? If there's too much in your mind and you need to clear it, we can brain dump. Almost, it has like no other purpose really. Just it just gets stuff out of your mind. But then there's this idea of actually having a purpose of trying to identify emotions and then seeing what we can do with them, how we can move forward. So
Mhm.
this processing piece, um, I think that's really great and important. And then I think also, like, on a positive side too, like if we could use journaling to maybe we feel stagnant, like in our lives, like I want to,
Mm.
change something. Could be a hairstyle, could be something more, like something needs to change. So
Yeah.
you can use your journaling to kind of explore, right, your goals, what's kind of like your ideal
Mm.
day like, right? So there's a bunch of different prompts, and I know we're going to talk about prompts in a second, but I think something like that could be super helpful. And then if you're working towards a goal, you could journal about your progress, right? And that's something that's
Yeah.
actually really nice to go back and look on. When I first set this goal to start a business, right, for example, a year ago, and now I can go back and look at how much progress I've made, and you look how apprehensive I was at this time versus like how confident I feel now, and like that's huge,
Mm.
to be able to
Mhm.
see progress like that. And without having that documented, your thoughts and where you were at that time, you wouldn't be able to see that progress. I actually found
Mhm.
something I had written. um, I'm trying to, like, literally when I first met with the dietitian over 2 years ago,
Mm.
and thinking like, okay, I'm giving this a go, but I don't know how it's going to go because I had never, experienced real success in this before. And I was reading this and I was like, oh, yo, this is awesome. Like,
Mhm.
if I needed a pick me up, like, forget about my little mini wellness win. Like, so stuff like that is great. So
Yeah.
sometimes you don't need to read it again, but I think sometimes it's really helpful and enlightening.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It helps you remember that progress is possible. And sometimes when we're like stuck in a really
Mm.
difficult place, like you said, we have a hard time forgetting where did we start? We usually started off in a really rough place and we've usually gotten
Hmm.
some improvement, some progress along the way. But on those hard days, we forget that that space exists. One thing that I need to do more of, but I started to do, and I heard this from somebody from the church that I used to go to, with prayer journaling. They were like, write a list of all of the things that you're praying about and write the date that you're praying those things. And then when God
Mm.
answers those prayers, write the date of that. And that reminds you that God answers your prayers. It reminds you that you were at a really tough point or there was a desire of your heart and you were working through it and you were praying through it, and there was a time where there was like a really great resolution or breakthrough. It could be
Hmm.
about anything, right? A lot of my friends are dating and they're like, yo, God, when are you bringing my spouse? Right. And so putting that, that's actually
Hmm.
something that I did when I was single. I was like praying for a husband and I put the date. And then the date that I got married, I was like, oh my gosh, God, like you did this. Like this is so cool, and a prayer wall. That's another thing that people do. You write your prayers on a wall and then you
Mm.
see like, wow, it's a good reminder of what is important to you, that what you want to be praying about. And also when God answers that prayer, it's like, wow, like you see it tangibly. And it's always a good reminder in that way. So I love that. I love that you were able to go back to when you started as a dietitian and be like, woo, look how far I've come
Yeah.
now. And I tried something new and scary and it actually turned out amazing. And I'm so happy I did this. That's a really
Hmm.
beautiful moment.
Yeah. You're reminding me with your prayer list something that I learned years ago, and I love lists. So this works for me. Like, in addition to journaling, lists is maybe a form of journaling, but this idea of writing down every time or keeping track. Again, you could do this in your phone. I'm sorry, I'm super analog. I love to write things down. I love paper and pen, but you could do it anyway. Of keeping track every time you feel like God has given you something, right? Like
Mm.
anything big, like you said, like huge. I prayed for a spouse and he gave me this amazing husband. But even like really small things, like you're late for a meeting and you're praying for a parking spot and one opens up, right? Or
Yep.
I don't know, like just something super small, right? You didn't feel good, and you were worried about having to do a presentation, but then you felt fine. Whatever it is, like could be something super
Yeah.
small, it could be big. And then anytime that we're feeling discouraged, and we all go through those times where we feel like God is far away, right? Like he's, maybe because we have been praying about something and we're not feeling anything's happening. If you go back and look through that, you see every time that you felt like God was right there, giving you a gift. I don't know if you have any of those experiences. I have super small ones that still make me
Hmm.
smile. They happened, some of them 15 years ago, and remembering this like little thing because it was so clear this is a gift from God to you,
Yeah.
Marianne.
Yeah.
It makes me smile, and it's anytime I'm feeling like, where are you, God? I'm like, oh, he's there. It's just he's on his, his timing. He's doing his thing. I just need to let it go and
Mm,
trust him. So that's like my
mm,
favorite list to keep. There's a ton of lists to keep, but it's kind of the same as your answered prayers, but you can even make it even
mm.
smaller, right?
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's so beautiful. That might be my takeaway is to revisit the prayer list that I have, but also like look at the smaller things. Because as you were talking, so many things just came to my mind. I was like, oh yeah, like God did that. And I had a really stressful day. Then he just cleared my calendar. Oh, and then that other day, I prayed for this. So it's a really good reminder. God cares about the big things and he also cares about the small things because God cares about us, like, period. So what
Mhm.
matters to us is going to
Mhm.
matter to him. And not in a way where we're like, God, like I'm more powerful than you. I dictate everything. No, not like that, but in a way that he's a loving father. So he was like, I want to sit with you. What's going on? How are you thinking and feeling about things? Invite me into your world. So I love
Yeah.
that. I feel so warm and fuzzy. That was so nice.
Anyone who there are some people hopefully listening that have heard my classic story, my favorite one. So I'm just gonna say it, and maybe you can comment, guys. Ferrero Rocher, okay, the magic chocolate that God sent me from heaven. Please, if you know the story or if you've heard of it, let me know. If you haven't, maybe one day I'll tell you in a reel or something. But that's the one I'm thinking of that just like warms my heart. God is so nice. Like
Mm,
he's just so nice. Like but you know what you said, he cares about the big and the small, just like
yeah.
when we love each other, right? Like, I care about the
Yeah.
big things in Chris's life, the big major stressors, the big horrible things or wonderful things, but also like when I'm at the store, I buy him a little treat because I know it's going to make
Yeah.
him happy, right? Or I make him tea at home
Yeah.
because I care about him. So the little things and the big things are how
Mhm.
we show each other love and how we experience God's love. So yeah,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right.
Mm.
I feel warm and fuzzy now too. Yeah. And I need to get better at making the list. Yeah, I agree with you. That's a good takeaway. But all right, well, here's the deal. So there's so many
Yeah.
benefits. Oh, you know what we haven't mentioned? What's the
Mm.
like connection, do you think, between mindfulness, which we've talked about a lot in the past, and journaling?
Mm.
What?
Good question. What? Oh, I thought you were gonna go.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, I was like, I see
I
her
didn't
being
know if you
excited.
were
I don't
like
want to stop the
stumped or
train.
something, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No, all good. Um, yeah, so there's definitely a connection between mindfulness and journaling. So a few things. One, the way that we set time aside for something like journaling, we also can set time aside to practice mindfulness. So both of those things, you are learning to prioritize your mental health, your emotional health, your holistic health when you're doing that. You're saying, okay, this is a priority for me to tune into myself. So I'm going to do XYZ. So both of
Hmm.
those things fall in that category. And then another way that they're connected is that when you practice mindfulness, your journaling life is more likely to be fulfilling and enriching and accurate. And what I mean is that when you're practicing mindfulness, you're tuning into yourself honestly. And then when you're journaling, you're writing that out. essentially. So mindfulness is like
Mhm.
pausing and being like, okay, how is my body feeling? How am I feeling emotionally? How am I feeling, XYZ? And just doing a little check in just for a few minutes. And then journaling gives me an opportunity to expand on any one of those or all of those. So let's say I'm having a mindfulness moment, and a few episodes ago we talked about somatic therapy with Dana, and Dana talked about grounding. So if you do a grounding exercise, from that grounding exercise, which is a way you practice mindfulness, you may realize, oh man, like I really didn't feel that sensation under my foot to know that and realize that I was on the ground. I wonder what that's all about. Okay, well, to fix that, I'm going to wiggle my toes. That's what you do in the moment to kind of bring yourself to that grounding moment. And how that leads to journaling is like, like for me, hey, God, I did a grounding technique today. I realized that I didn't really, like, I wasn't present to the point where I didn't realize and I couldn't feel the nice carpet underneath my feet. I think I might be really stressed out. Oh, I am really stressed out. I'm really stressed out about like XYZ. So it kind of like gets the ball rolling, but doing the mindfulness activity lets you know that there is a ball that needs to be rolled. That sounds silly, sorry, but
Yeah.
that's how they are connected, and they both help improve the relationship that you have with yourself, which I think is key, and also
Mhm.
one of the reasons why it's so difficult because we're like, why do I want to explore myself? It's kind of freaky and annoying. So
Yeah.
that's how they're connected. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like we have to be mindful to be journaling,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you have to stop, you have to pause, and you have to think about how I'm feeling in this moment, right? Like, how else am I
Yeah.
going to write my feelings if I don't take a moment to think about how I'm feeling? So, I think that it's a good way to start practicing mindfulness if we're not really
Mm-hmm.
sure where to start, right? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I think that's another big benefit for sure.
Yeah.
So what I want to kind of talk about now is what if someone has not had any experience journaling at all, but they're like, these benefits sound kind of important. I want to pursue this, I want to explore it. Like, what would be a good start that's not overwhelming? Because again, I think some people are
Mm.
like, there's a certain way I have to do it, and I can't dedicate half an hour a day or whatever it is. And I don't want, again, another thing on my to-do list. So what's maybe a good place to start? What do you think?
Yeah. Um so I created something called a stress-free journaling guide with 7 journal prompts. And the reason why is because a lot of people want to begin the journey of journaling, but they're really nervous about it. On
Hmm.
Instagram and social media, we see journaling reels that are like this really pretty journal with this really beautiful tea, with this really aesthetically pleasing, air diffuser, and they all match. And it's just like, oh, that's what journaling has to be like. And that's beautiful. I'm not knocking aesthetically pleasing things. What I'm saying is sometimes
Yeah.
those things make us feel like there's like certain ways we need to show up to the journaling space. So I'll put the link down below where you can sign up and you can get that guide. It's very, very helpful and it's free. But the reason why I mention it is because one of the things you can just immediately start to do is with whatever piece of paper, with whatever pen, or like with your phone, if you want to do an app, something like that, whatever you have available, and you just start. And you simply say, okay, like I'm going to try this journaling thing. What of these different ways of journaling that Marianne and Rachel spoke about really resonate with me? Right? What's the
Hmm.
easiest one? For a lot of people, that might be the brain dump. For some people, it might be the prayer journal, right? So start with whatever seems easiest and not difficult to do, and then just go ahead and write it out. I will say this,
Hmm.
psychologically speaking, we typically recommend people to do journaling like physically writing it down. There's just a lot of research that shows that a lot of stress relief comes when you're physically doing something.
Hmm.
And the physical action of
Yeah.
writing, it's good for memorization if you're someone who's studying, but we're not doing that here. But it is also good for relieving of the stress because it's movement through your body that you're getting out. So if you
Hmm.
can, like if that's something
Hmm.
within your ability to do that, go that route. If not, then do whatever works best for you. And really just start there. And so, as you are writing, let's say, what seems easiest is the brain dump, and you have 5 minutes to do it, and you have a post it note. and a good old pen that you got for free from the local market. Cool. That's all you need. And then you do your brain
Mhm.
dump. And then after that, you can reflect and you can be like, what did I like about it? What did I not like about it? Do I wish I had a bigger piece of paper? Was it difficult to do the brain dump? Maybe I should try something else. Do I want to be in a more comfortable place? Setting is really
Mhm.
important because we need to be in places where we feel comfortable, we don't feel judged, and we don't have
Mhm.
distractions. So, do I need to put in my AirPods? Do I need to have a certain playlist? Do I want to have a certain scent on in the diffuser or in the candle? And so, just ask yourself the questions to see what you liked about it and what you didn't like about it and how you can do it differently moving forward. So I would say that's a great
Yeah.
place to start. Start with what you have. That is the goal. You're not trying to be like super journal person, winning an award here. You're just trying to journal and get used to it and get comfortable with it.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's so many like tiny prompts even. Like so if you don't know where to start, I think a good one if you want to try like end of the day to help you process the day. You could even do something as
Mm.
simple as what was the best part of my day, what was the hardest part of my day. Maybe you
Mm-hmm.
could add what is my wellness win of the day, right? Or what am I proud
Mm-hmm.
of that I did today, to kind of end your day on a high note. So, what am I grateful for today? There are so many things, you don't have to pick all of them, but pick one or two that, again, speak to you that would help you kind of get some sort of, processing out of your day, right? At the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then talking about prompts, I know there's like a ton. I just saw this one and I just loved it. So I'm just going to share
Mm.
it just in case anyone else finds it interesting. But okay, if you wake up tomorrow having everything you want, what does this look like? Right? This is a big one. Like this is not
Mm.
for a 5 minute intro journaling session. Like this is a huge one. Okay, if you wake up tomorrow having everything you want, what does this look like? Where are
Mm.
you? Who are you with? And what are you doing with your time? So if you're in a place that you're like,
Mm.
again, I'm just not satisfied maybe with where I'm at, and I know
Yeah.
something needs to change, but I don't know what, I feel like that's a big one. You could probably get a whole notebook out of that prompt if you really thought about it, but you never know. It could
Yeah.
lead you to do something that you had never considered before. Um, but
Yeah.
there's like prompts for everything. So it depends what you're trying to
Yep.
deal with. If you're anxious, if you're depressed, if you're, feeling like you have imposter syndrome, if you need, self-love, if you're looking for a relationship, if you're having difficulty in your relationship, like I feel like there's so many things that the internet is a treasure trove. And I'm sure your journaling guide as well has a lot of good stuff that would help us to start.
That's a really incredible prompt. What I love about it is that we're inviting God into thinking about what are the changes we want to see and actually believing that reality that we're writing down that we want, we're able to actually believe that that is possible for us. And since we're able
Mm,
to see what those differences are between where we are now and where we are when we write it down, we're able to see, oh, okay, so since one of the things I wrote down is I want more free time to spend with my loved ones or I want more time outside, that lets me know, oh, maybe I need to change something in my schedule, right? It helps you get everything that's stuck up here. And when things are stuck up in our brain, we tend to get really negative and tend to believe that things just can't get
mm,
better. But when we say it out loud, we're like, oh, well, I'm saying it out loud. Or when we're writing it and journaling it, we're like, oh, maybe there's a process to like solving this or fixing this. But when things are swimming around in our brain, it gets to be a little bit difficult to believe that change can happen. And I love that it's inviting God into it to be like, God, like, this is what I want my life to look like. And there's been many times when I'm
yeah.
praying that it's like, hey, God, this is what I'm thinking about. And I'm praying and I'm praying and I'm hearing from the Lord, not the audible voice. That'd be kind of cool. But more so like getting ideas and revelations about what he thinks and what a next step could be and helping me to dig deeper into something, maybe even going into the Bible because it reminds me of a biblical story that I can learn a lesson from that's applying to this situation.
Hmm.
But it really opens the door for God to see and say, oh, okay, this is what you want your day-to-day to look like. This is what I think about it. And let's see what we can do together to make that happen, or make some changes, because actually the plans that I have for you are greater and it's for you to prosper, but it's different than this plan that you have. So let's talk it out, you know?
Yeah.
So it's very, oh,
Yeah.
that's such a beautiful prompt. That's another takeaway, to do that prompt too.
Yeah. So, you know what you're reminding me of? The idea of manifesting. And I'll be honestly,
Mm.
I don't know how I feel about it, but I hear a
Mm-hmm.
lot about it, and perhaps I don't necessarily believe I can speak anything into existence, manifest whatever I want.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think it's a huge first step. Like, you can't achieve a goal that you haven't named, right? So you have
Mm.
to name that goal, whatever it is you're trying to achieve, whatever it is you want to change. If I can't literally say it, write it, envision it, how could I possibly achieve it? So it's like
Mm-hmm.
definitely the first step, in anything. So I would say, if you have any sort of goal setting, and I feel like we wouldn't be doing a wellness podcast or listening to a wellness podcast if we weren't trying to make some positive change. So if you're trying to make any sort of
Yeah.
positive change, I think that's a huge place to start. Just write it down. Even if it feels
Mm-hmm.
or sounds to you like it's ridiculous and over the top, just write it down. I would like,
Yeah.
this. I want to run a marathon. I want to start my own business. I want to move to the beach. Whatever it is that you want to do, like, okay, it doesn't mean you're going to have that exact thing, next year, but you could be very well on your way. And even that goal could lead you to something else, right? Just by naming,
Yep.
I want to live by the beach. Okay, well, maybe
Mm.
I'm not ever going to live by the beach, but that could take me, a route that I had never considered. It could lead me to apply to a job somewhere else. You know what I mean? It could lead to something, where you
Yeah.
find your kind of best life that you had never considered before, because you wrote something down, right? Because you gave yourself a chance
Yeah.
to name what you wanted. Yeah.
Yeah. It starts
Manifesting
the
is another
process. Oh yeah.
conversation.
Yes. Oh
Sorry.
gosh. Yeah.
I don't know
No, no,
how
no.
you
It's totally
feel about
fine.
it, but yeah.
Yeah. Manifesting, I have many thoughts about it. There's a psychological aspect to it. I think there's also a lot of misconceptions around it, because social media, everybody thinks they're a therapist on social media. So a lot of what I hear is like not true. And then there's also the Christian part of it too, which there are a lot of Bible verses that say things like manifestation is biblical. But I think the biggest difference is, who are we attributing the success to, and what is the actual
Mm-hmm.
process of it. But that is like 5 episodes in itself.
Yeah, I'm
But what I
sorry. I'm
will
sorry.
say is, no, oh my gosh, no, you're totally fine. I love the avenues. I wish our podcast could be 5 hours long, but that's not a good idea. But I love that you were talking about it, because just the idea of writing it down gets the ball rolling, and it allows ourselves to wonder. Right? A lot of us, especially if you're a child of immigrants, if you're a person of color, if you're somebody who was raised in an environment that was really like rigid and ritualistic and rules based, something that was taken from us is the ability to wonder and to dream, and just to be like, well, what if I tried this? A lot of people have a difficult time with that. And so by writing down I would like to live by a beach, it might sound silly, but you're allowed to want and wonder and dream about things that are silly. And it doesn't mean that it's necessarily
Mm.
going to happen. What it means is that you're saying, oh, I'm tuning into a desire that I have in my heart. I'm going to bring it to God. What does God say about it? What does he think about it? Oh, actually, God is like letting me know that the next move is not a beach, but it's actually something a little bit different. But by bringing it up, we're able to do something about it, and just having the freedom to
Mm-hmm.
dream, to wonder. That was a motto.
Yeah.
We're in the year 2023. Oh, this was 2 years ago in 2021. Every January I do like just some time of prayer and fasting to see what the Lord says to me for the year. It's usually a motto and a Bible verse. And the motto that year was dare to dream. be bold to dream. And I was
Nice.
like, God, that's weird. I have dreams. Like I sleep and I have dreams. But he was like, no, like you don't allow yourself to wonder and explore and see what things could be like, which is interesting because I was also the year I got married. So I wonder if there's like a connection there. But I say all that to say, having the freedom to explore and dream is huge, 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 huge.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, this has been great. I'm excited to try something new. I think we have a couple minutes. I'll just tell you I'm going to try an end of the day cuz I do my scripture writing in the beginning of the day. So I want to try a real brief end of the day, maybe like highlight of the day, difficult part of the day, something I'm thankful for. So, maybe like three things. It could literally be like three sentences, but I want to try something to add something like that and maybe explore some different prompts as well. What about
I
you?
love that. That's a great takeaway. For me, what's my takeaway? I think my takeaway is going to be what you mentioned of taking note of the smaller things, that the smaller ways that God shows up in my life. And I have a hunch it's going to boost my gratitude practice, which is something I like to
Mhm.
do, but I want to do a better job at. So yeah, I think that's gonna be my takeaway. And we would love to hear from y'all. What was your takeaway? What are your thoughts about journaling? There's so many different types. What is something that you want to try? So drop that down below in the comments. If you want to, you can DM that to us. We're on Instagram at Connected Wellness Podcast. We're also on Facebook at Connected Wellness Podcast. I'm on Instagram at Real with Rachel Ann. Marianne is on Instagram at Wabasaba. If email is more of your vibe, we got that too. We're Connected Wellness Podcast at gmail.com. But yeah, we would love to hear from y'all. What are your thoughts about journaling, and how has it been helpful to your life, or maybe not helpful at all and you want to revamp it? But yeah, I would love to hear from y'all, and I know Marianne would love that. We love hearing from you all. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for your comments and your ideas, and we're excited to hear about what you think about journaling.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, hope to hear from you and hope you have a great week, whatever it is, whenever you're listening to this, and we'll see you next time. Be well.
Be well, everybody. Bye.